Hey, my name is Dev Amin, and welcome to the Life Elevate podcast. Did you know that some experts predict that we will see fishless oceans by 2048 if we continue our excess consumption of fish at the current rate? This shocking fact got me thinking of a few months ago when my family and I went to Key West. The first day we were going scuba diving, the guides there told us that you could not even mistakenly stand on the coral because if you do, then it will destroy the reef and you will immediately have to come back in the boat. This got me thinking about the marine life in the world and how animals like dolphins and sharks are endangered because of the overexploitation of human fishing. This got me thinking about how many fish are killed per year so that humans can eat them. At this rate, the fish population will be endangered or even extinct in the next century. We have to take a big step to slow this process down, but we have to take a gigantic approach to make a real dent in the rate at which fish are being killed. Today, we will be talking about how IUU fishing affects the environment and how much humans change in the habitat by IUU fishing. To look more into why this is happening, today we will go through an in-depth study for small-scale shrimp fishing by going to the Beira of Sirenheim, BSIR, in northeastern Brazil to look at the shrimp fishing areas and how different fishing policies and environmental changes affect the marine resources and ecosystem between 2015 and 2030. The EAF did a study in which they developed an ecopath with ecoism EWE food web model approach to do a case study of northeastern Brazil. The study assesses how the fishing effort control and environmental changes affected the sustainability of a tropical shrimp scale factory, which the study was simulated up to 2030. Shrimp is mainly caught in shallow water, so the shrimp fishing areas in the BSIR were from 4 to 20 meters deep, and they covered 75 kilometers. Bottom trawling consists of 50% of the shrimp production, while Pernambuco is the only state in the region with no regulations on trawl fishery. The EWE has three primary modules for finding the study's results: the mass balance routine, the time dynamic routine, and the spatial temporal dynamic model to quantify the trophic flaws among compartments of the BSIR. The mass balance approach considers parameters such as biomass to describe the trophic flows between biological compartments. The time dynamic approach simulates changes in the estimates of biomass and catch rates over time. The first, they first closed the fishing period to see how the ecosystem functioned without human intervention, and then opened the fishing period to see the impact of human intervention. This study showed that target and some fish not targeted benefit from the closed fishing period, but there were also a few negatives from the PP. We learned that we don't need to close down trawling, as trawling up to 10% led to promising results, as the biomass levels were maintained and the negative impacts of PP from it being completely closed were also reduced. The BSIR is a developing ecosystem, as right now it doesn't have that much resilience because there were no fishing regulations in this area. Climate change was also a significant part of this study, as we learned that this world is heading towards warmer and drier conditions. Fisheries will be in grave danger. We have to start looking at profound ways to diminish the impact of climate change so those marine ecosystems can have a brighter future. Let's welcome our guest expert, Dr. Shah, who has a PhD in marine biology, to give us a more in-depth analysis of how excess fishing will affect the environment and marine life.
Thank you for inviting me to your show. 80% of worldwide fisheries are being overexploited or are close to being overexploited. Trawling is a big part of why fisheries are being exploited, as it not only affects the large target species, marine animals not intended to be caught get hooked by lines set out to catch target species. Another negative impact of trawling is that its equipment damages coral reefs and other marine habitats and disturbs marine flora and wildlife communities. The nets used for deep sea trawling are fitted with rubber rollers, which destroy the corals, which is the habitat for millions of marine organisms.
The study we looked at earlier, it was talking about the different trophic levels. Can you give us more in-depth analysis of these different trophic levels?
The trophic levels of an organism is basically what the organism likes to eat. The first trophic level is producers who make their food and who make their own food and have the highest energy. The second level is organisms that consume producers, and so on. There and so on. Some of the major fish caught by fishing are higher on the trophic level, so they also impact algae. If someone captures excess shrimp in the BSIR, there will be too many algae in the water, which will then release toxins and cause illnesses for animals and humans that live in the water or even use the water for drinking water. The modern commercial fishing practice of overfishing is an example of the tragedy of commons, which is overusing natural resources for one's own gain. Too much and too little of anything is bad for the environment, which is why Mother Nature created the earth the way it is.
Thank you, Dr. Shah, for joining us in this week's episode of the Life Elevate podcast. After looking at the study in northeastern Brazil and the expert information from Dr. Shah, we learned that we need to reduce the rate of trawling. Still, we do not need to stop trawling, as the reduced amounts of trawling have a positive effect on the ecosystem. Some human intervention is good, but the primary threat looming for marine ecosystems is climate change, as the warmer and drier conditions will have a dreadful effect on the marine ecosystems. I will see you guys here at the same time next week to look at how we can mitigate climate change and protect the marine ecosystems.